Hey, all right, you guys. I have Miss Lauren here with me today. How are you, Lauren?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I am so good. I'm so excited to have you on this show because, like a lot of people who come on here, we're virtual friends, but we don't really
Yes.
see each other face to face.
Yes, I know. We've been virtual friends for a while.
I think maybe like 2 or 3 years at least.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh my goodness. How's life where you're at quarantine wise?
It's good. I am fully vaccinated. So I know, so that's really excited. And this is actually my first Zoom experience. I have not had to attend a Zoom meeting because I work in dental, so we've been open. So this is my first Zoom.
I didn't know that. Oh my gosh, I feel
Yes,
you're gonna share a story and it's your first time on Zoom. Wow,
I
so you've been
know.
working through this whole thing.
Yes, we took a pause for about 4 weeks, but they had me doing a different job. So,
You guys, that's considered essential.
yes.
Yeah. I was gonna say people need to go to their dentist. I need to go to my dentist. I was just thinking that today. I was like, oh, I think my jawline is starting to move again.
Oh no.
Braces, they don't last forever if you don't have
Yeah.
your I don't anymore. But anyway, we're not here to talk about my we're here to talk about Lauren's story, and we are connected by HD as a blessing and a curse. I always tell people I wouldn't have this community and this many group of friends if it wasn't for HD. But why don't you share with us all how your HD story starts?
Yeah, so it's my dad is the one that is HD positive, and his symptoms started in 2005. And I'm 21, about to turn 22 on Saturday.
Hey,
So
Saturday, that's the 13th. I'm the
13th.
16th.
Oh,
Happy
that's awesome.
birthday.
Thank you. So at this point, I was 6, and I didn't know, and I don't even know if he had noticed his symptoms at this point, but my mom had. She had noticed just a tick every once in a while in his finger, and so she decided to start nursing school a year after she knew because she had a front desk job and she knew that she couldn't fully support a family on a single income making what she was making. So she went ahead and decided to go back to nursing school and know that we would all be well taken care of once he eventually lost his job. So she started nursing school. And then at that time is when he stopped working because his symptoms were getting worse. And then he officially got diagnosed in 2008. So I was 9. So he stopped working and she was full dove in nursing school, and he played Mr. Mom at this time. And that's really the sweetest memories are when he was playing Mr. Mom because mom was gone a lot of the time. And he would pick us up from school, me and all my best friends, the neighborhood kids, and he would take us to McDonald's. And he was always home taking care of us if we were sick. We had a sick bell and would ring it when we needed someone when we were in bed. I would ring that bell
You
and
felt
he
sick,
would,
you had it by your bedside.
yes, we would just ring it when we were sick. I know, we love our sick bell. So I would ring it and here he would be. So
At your
it
bedside.
really is.
Oh,
I know those 4 years, 4 or 5 years or so were really the
yeah.
sweetest of times. And then his symptoms got worse and he had a wreck, so he couldn't drive anymore. I know it wasn't, he just hit a tree. We're so thankful it wasn't anything worse than what it could have been.
How long ago was that now that he got into that?
2012.
And you think it was HD related?
Yes.
Okay, that's so fascinating to me because I feel like a lot of people I've talked to, they get in an accident before they're
Yeah.
either disabled or have their license taken away. Because my dad had 2 accidents before he got his license taken away. And I think this was either right when he got disability or while he was waiting. And I felt terrible because obviously that's a big, I mean, I can't imagine not driving anymore to
Yeah.
freedom. But I've now heard my dad's story I'm pretty sure there were a couple other people who've been on who shared a very similar experience. I think Heather had said that. And now your dad. So that's
Yeah,
just as a side note, that's really interesting. It seems to
it
be.
is. And I feel like driving is something that a lot of people don't think about when they think about HD, but like it really is a part of your dignity.
Oh,
Like,
absolutely. But when you're dealing with a cognitive decline,
yeah,
I think about that now all the time when I'm driving, when I hear people tell these stories, and I'm like, it's so true that you learn to drive and then you never think about it again. Like I couldn't
yeah,
tell you when I get in the car why or how I do the things I do. I just am so, muscle memory and it's just,
yeah,
and I'm like, it's kind of scary to think at any moment if my brain just had a glitch, I could be wrecked. Like,
yeah.
take 2
I
seconds.
know.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so 2012, he gets in the car accident.
Yes. So, and we live in a really small town. We are right in the top corner of Georgia, northwest corner.
Uh-huh.
So we're just a small town. And in our neighborhood, the way it is worked up, there's a restaurant and a gas station very close. So we bought dad a golf cart. And he is a big Georgia Bulldogs fan. It was a Georgia red golf cart, and he was a fireman also. He was a volunteer fireman since he was 16 years old, I think. So we had him a firefighter sticker, and at this point in his symptoms, he was able to drive the golf cart. He would go to that restaurant every day, get a cheeseburger, go to the gas station if he needed anything from there, and then he also could get to the fire hall. So he would, while we were at school, he would always take the golf cart, and then he has a best friend, Mickey, who lives in the neighborhood. So he would always drive over to Mickey's. So that golf cart really it was a great idea. And it really gave him a part of that dignity of driving and going to pick us up food. And it gave him that back with those few years he had the golf cart.
That is so cute. I love that so much because my dad he doesn't have a golf cart. It's not that cool. He has a bike and then he has a scooter. And the scooter is electric. I'm not sure if the bike is electric or regular, but he drives it and rides it in places he probably shouldn't. Like when he first lost his license, he would go back and forth from my stepmom's because they were separated at this point in time and she had the kids. So he would drive, it was like a 2-mile difference, and he would ride that bike or that scooter. And there was one day where my sister was still in high school, and the road that passes by where my stepmom was at and where my dad was at was also how she got home from school. And so she gets home and she goes, "You're never gonna guess who I saw today on the way home from school." And I was like, "Who?" And she goes, "So traffic was backed up really, really bad on the road on the way home from school. Like people were getting mad, people were trying to pass, and even semis." And I'm like, "What happened?" And she goes, "Yeah, Dad was on the scooter."
Oh my goodness.
Like, "Oh well, thank God he didn't get hurt, but what the heck?" She goes, "Yep, that was my dad." And she goes, "I couldn't
That is so funny.
And my sister had a tiny little car, so she wouldn't have anywhere to put the scooter. They just have to leave it on the side of the.
That is so funny. I actually have a story similar to that, but it was backtrack when he was still driving.
Uh-huh.
So when my mom was in nursing school, also she was working crazy hours. So she wasn't home at this point, and me and my little brother Brady, we were. I know you have a little brother named Brady as well. I know.
That's funny.
I know it is. So we were begging and begging and begging for a Frosty. Dad, please take us to get a Frosty. Please. There's a Wendy's 5 minutes down the road. Please, Dad. And we wouldn't leave him alone about it. And we joke about it now. We actually brought the story up the other day, but he had already taken his knot medicine and we didn't know. And he was like, "Okay, I just took it. I'll be fine. I'll drive them." Oh. So he took us and we were headed back and we were about to pull in the neighborhood. Thankfully, we were really close. And he just takes his foot off of the gas and it's like idling, going like 2 miles an hour on the highway.
And I thought you were in the neighborhood at this point. God.
We were passing the neighborhood and we were like, "Hey, Dad, there's the neighborhood, you passed it. And then these cars start lining up behind us. And we were like, what's going on? Dad. And he was like, I just can't drive right now. I can't drive. And thankfully he was a fireman and he was friends with all the police, all the firemen. So someone had called the police and they pulled up and they knew. And so they just brought us home. But
for a second, I thought you were going to say he fell asleep because I didn't know if the medicine was drowsy.
No, I guess he was just already groggy.
Yeah.
And so he knew he could not. So he just let it idle. But that story reminded me of the story of your death.
I mean, if no one got hurt, they're kind of funny though.
I know.
Like, hey, remember that time when Dad? Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
So with your dad, what are things like now?
So now he is in a nursing home. We put him in 2017. Actually around this time in 2017. And it was at the anger point of his symptoms.
Yeah.
The anger, jealousy, outbursts. And we knew that we didn't want to remember him like that. So at that point, it was like we were constantly walking on eggshells, being here at the house. So we put him in, and I'm really glad we did it when we did, because I remember more of the sweet memories than the angry Huntington's brain part of it. So now he's also double vaccinated. So, and me and Mom joke about it because people are saying that you won't be able to travel without having the vaccine card. Mom's like, well, hey, me, you, and Dad will go on a cruise.
Oh, I mean, that's a really optimistic way.
Yes. So up until the beginning of February, I hadn't seen my dad in a full year in person, got to hug his neck. So he had a doctor's appointment at the Huntington's clinic in Chattanooga. Erlanger has an awesome Huntington's clinic. And so I took off work that day, and I was already double vaccinated at this point. So I felt safe being around him. And so I got to go and spend the day with him and Mom at the Huntington's clinic. And that was really such a blessing. I'm so thankful that his appointment fell on a day that I could go, and I got to spend the day with him.
Oh my gosh, what was the Huntington's clinic like? What did your dad do there?
It's amazing. He sees a speech pathologist came in and did the assessment, went out, neurology, social worker, the overall doctor, and occupational therapy. It was a busy day full of people assessing how he is now.
Oh, so is this something that he will do once a year as a checkup?
Yes, and I think it's actually every 6 months.
Okay.
But at the 6 month point, the pandemic was so bad, they kept putting it off.
Yeah. It sounds really similar to at different centers of excellences. There's the option to go in and, get evaluated once a year. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it changes based on your symptoms and the progression. I don't think it does, because my dad is progressed, but when he was still driving, he would do this too. But now that he doesn't have a license, he doesn't. But he was, I think, only going in once a year. But I got into Vanderbilt University of Tennessee, because they have Center of Excellence there, and they do the HD clinics. And so when I'm trying to think how I started going there first. Oh, I remember now. I was supposed to go to the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, Michigan, which is, only a couple hours from me and in the same state.
Yeah.
They were going through a transition of that department at that time. And so they were trying to rehire people. They didn't have someone to fill the prior position. So it was just kind of on hold. Like, they couldn't do anything for HD until they hired new people. So I went, okay, and I looked on the list, and Vanderbilt was listed, and I used to live in Nashville for a couple of years, so I was like, why don't I just go there? We could take a trip. I mean, you don't get a lot of money, but they comp you for like how many miles you went, and so we did it. That was January of 2019, and then I was supposed to go back in April of last year, and that was right when the quarantine hit. So now 2 years since I've been, and they're calling me asking me to come back, and it's just the same thing like you said. You go in and kind of feels like you're getting your testing done all over again because they have a psychiatrist, they have a neurologist.
Yeah.
I didn't see a speech pathologist, but again, I don't have symptoms at this point in time. But I had to do neurological testing where we would look at pieces of paper and we had a different objective on each piece of paper. So the one that really got me so tripped up, my mom went with me. She was supposed to be like an outlier to the equation. They wanted to see how someone without Huntington's did with someone who was pre-symptomatic.
That's awesome.
Brain games because I was competitive. But the brain games were, there was one where there's a sheet of paper and it had all these different colors and it would say like red, white, blue. But then they were all in different colors. So red was white, white was blue, blue was red. So the first round, you had to read what was actually written in the text, even though your eye is seeing a different color. And then the second one was reversed. So you had to say the color and not the text.
Oh, wow.
Oh my gosh. That was so aggravating. And my mom was like, I don't even have Huntington's. And I was really like upset trying to get this.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was super fun. And they just evaluate you. I had to do some walking and I was in hospital that day and I was super sick. So I ended up tripping and they were like, we're not going to count that against you.
Yeah.
You know, you're not in the right attire to be walking in a straight line. And you're also sneezing in between because this was, you know, before COVID and I had a terrible head cold. Yeah, those clinics are super great just to be able to go in and, you know, every year go back and see how you compare to the previous time, especially whether you're symptomatic or pre-symptomatic, just to have that in like a filed away that.
A baseline almost.
Yes. So I am such an advocate for those. I think they're great.
Oh yeah, I'm so thankful that there's one local because you wouldn't expect having one like that close.
To go to that clinic.
30 minutes.
Oh yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah. and there was traffic that day, really bad traffic. So we had to go the scenic route, which I'm thankful for because that was his first time out in a year. So he got to see a beautiful river and mountains, and it was a beautiful drive there. And I'm thankful. I'm thankful for the traffic that day, actually.
It was probably God saying, hey, I'm going to take you on the scenic route. And
yes.
Relax and enjoy.
Yep. Slow down and enjoy this time. Yeah.
Yeah. It's really important that we do that more often and feel like it's kind of helps. I mean, not that the pandemic's been great, but that's one thing that I think a lot of us have been able to take away from it is just pausing, breathing, and reflecting.
Yes, after seeing so much devastation, really, that's the key.
Yeah, I can't imagine with your dad, because I mean, a lot of us have been locked down, but that's only to a certain degree. I mean, in the very beginning, it was like I didn't leave my apartment, now my house, but you know, now it's like I work from home, but I still go to the grocery store.
Yeah.
I go to the gym, you know, obviously there's precautions in all these places that we go in public. We go to the bank, but in the beginning it was so locked down. So I can't imagine just being completely locked down and isolated for a year. Bad. They have interaction with the other patients, or do they make them separate from one another?
I think they're still separated, but the funniest part is that they are all confined to their, well, it's not funny. They're all confined to their rooms, but Dad is not letting that happen. So he has been out roaming. I guess they just realized that he's gonna run, so they just gotta let him. So they have a porch and he sweeps it every day and he calls us and he's like, I swept today, I'm such a hard worker. And so I'm very thankful they have that option to give him something to do.
Yeah, because I think a lot of times, I mean, just with everything going on in the world, anyone who has lost their job, lost their source of income, or even just a hobby that they used to do that required them to go out in public, like performing or anything like that, when it's taken away from you and you're no longer able to do that, you really lose your sense of self.
Yeah.
I mean, I've felt that in very minimal ways with the pandemic, just not being able to go out and sing, which I do for like a second source of income. But having your life completely stripped away from like having your own license and being able to drive or being able to live by yourself, those are totally different than,
Yeah.
right now having to put up with the pandemic. Like eventually that'll go back to normal, but for everyone with HD, it doesn't. And
Yeah.
thankfully, I don't know how, but my dad still lives by himself in the house that we grew up in. So he has what 4 or 5 bedroom house all to himself.
Oh, wow.
With his HD, he is so. And it's interesting again that, and I'll touch on this in a minute, not too heavily, but just that you said your dad had outbursts, because I feel like that's a symptom that hits some families very heavily, and it seems to be very common. And so
Mm-hmm.
when I have these conversations and it comes up, I feel very connected because I went through that very early on as well, but we did not know it was HD until I was almost graduating from high school.
Wow.
I wasn't able to flip that switch with my dad and go, okay, this is HD. And even if you do know, it still hurts and it's still
Yeah.
hard to compartmentalize it in your brain, because your brain still sees it as my dad did this and that made me sad. Like there's no
Mm-hmm.
way to separate that. But I feel like, for so long I didn't know how to comprehend what was going on. Why would he get mad about spilling a glass of water? Or when my brother Brady would run around the house and, bump into a door, like it would be the end of the world. Like, and
Yeah.
we'd run to our rooms because my dad was going to go on a rage over something so minuscule. And it's really hard even now to go, okay, like that was HD, but it still happened.
Yeah.
So the fact that you guys made that really difficult decision to put your dad somewhere that wasn't your home
Yeah.
had to be the toughest and most difficult decision to make in the world. But it sounds like for your guys's mental health and even for your
Yes.
dad to be where he's at, I think it's probably one of the best things you could have done with his.
Yes. Definitely. Looking back, I'm so thankful we did when we did, because we experienced it, but it stopped anything worse from happening. But we could see it in his eyes. We knew that was not him anytime it would happen, and he never got physical, which I'm so thankful for, because I know that happens so many times. But it would be like punching walls, like we have holes in the walls here from just random things that would just set him off that we wouldn't expect to.
The anger was a pattern for my family with my grandpa, my dad, and then my sister until she progressed. And then that wasn't an issue. It was just more her physical, her physical disabilities that she had an issue with. I don't even think at that point she had it in her to have that rage anymore. But I've also talked to people who say, no, sweet as can be, there's no issues. For some people, I've talked to one couple when I first got diagnosed. This was 4 years ago at this point. They're like, no, she doesn't have any anger issues, but she has a really, really high metabolism. So she eats all the time. And she was stick thin. And she goes, and she was so sweet. This was when I was still in Tennessee. And she said, yeah, it can suck sometimes, but I can eat whatever I want.
That dad is the same way. It was always cheeseburgers and Little Debbie's, cheeseburgers and Little Debbie's. Now it's 8 cans of root beer a day and chocolate, all the chocolate he can get his hands on.
And your dad's so petite, because I've seen your pictures.
He is so little. He is so tiny. And he always, since the symptoms, he always has been.
Yeah.
But he's always ate so much. And they always just say it's just because he's burning so many calories. Yeah. He needs so much more. So yeah, he is a big fan of root beer and chocolate.
Does she like root beer floats?
No, I don't know. I'm sure they have a lot of like activities and parties up there.
Oh,
And so I'm sure they have done, they are absolutely amazing where he is at.
that's incredible, because if you're putting someone you love in the hands of someone else, that is terrifying, especially when they have something like Huntington's.
Yeah.
And I have heard stories where they talk about putting them into a nursing home and it's either not good or it's just okay. But unless if that's the only option, obviously you want a place where they're going to feel like they can have a community, they can thrive, they can still somewhat feel like themselves, even though they're not at home anymore. So yeah, all the pictures I always see of your dad, it looks like he's always super happy.
Oh yes, he's their baby, because they just all love him and take such good care of him, and we are so thankful for that.
Oh, that's so sweet. Yeah, the food is very interesting to me because I don't think my grandpa has a high metabolism. He hasn't really lost a ton of weight due to HD, but he does have that sugar and sweet craving. Like when you were talking about what your dad likes, my grandpa likes to eat. Oh gosh, my grandma keeps like cookies and cakes and Hostess cupcakes and donuts. What else? Oh my gosh. He likes fried chicken. That's his favorite thing to get from the store. Like when they go grocery shopping, he gets a tub of fried chicken from Walmart. Like, and that makes him so happy. And I'm like, our food can truly feed your soul and your happiness. I guess, give them all the food they want.
Yeah, life is short. Give them what they want. Even if dad gets really messy when he eats, oh well.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, Brianna was kind of that way for a long time too. She got she had always had some kind of craving, and she'd always have some obsession. So whenever I would come over, because she lived with her mom, my stepmom, and whenever I would come over, she'd have a new either movie or TV show that she was fixated on, and she would not change it. So I would watch Victorious all the way over again, because I used to watch that. Or the kid cooking shows. I don't know what they're called, but they're little kids that go and they cook on TV. We watched every episode of that one time. One time it was the remake of The Lion King. I think that one was done in like 2017 or something. But we watched that for a whole day straight.
And wow.
Went to the TV and tell me her favorite part. I had to act like I hadn't watched it other times that day. But then she had the same thing with food. So every time I would come over, my stepmom would go, here's her favorite food of the day or the week. Just so you know, like, this food is no longer relevant, so don't offer it to her. Because she was super sweet, but she'd like, if you offered her something and it wasn't what she was obsessed with, she'd be like, no. Yeah. So it went from cereal. They had a whole pantry full of, and when I mean like full of cereal, I mean the whole pantry was just cereal, every single flavor that she was obsessed with. Then when cereal was no longer relevant, it was Oreos. So she had to, and she always had to have a surplus of quantity in front of her, because otherwise she would get upset. So we couldn't have one box of Oreos. We'd have to have 6 boxes of Oreos. Or if she had ice cream or cake, we had to have multiple bowls of ice cream or cake for her. Like,
wow. Yeah.
Funny, but those things, you look back and they're the things that you carry with you. You're like, yep,
yes,
sense of humor and their diet definitely was something I will never forget.
Yeah.
It actually was interesting when I went to the HDSA convention. Have you ever been to one of those?
No.
Oh, that's so frustrating. I went to one and it was 2019. And in 2019, I went to the one in Boston. And then last year they had it online. And this year they just announced it's going to be virtual as well, because it's only 3 months away and nothing's really changed. So I don't blame them money-wise, marketing-wise, time-wise. It doesn't make sense to take that risk. But the year I did go, you break out into sessions. They have some that, everyone's in the same room and they have ceremonies, but then they have some where you break out. And I was laughing because I was looking at the schedule and I felt like everything I had somehow had a correlation to, because it would be like a caregiver. Well, I'm kind of that to my dad and my sister. But then it would be, oh, gene positive. And I was like, oh, that's me too. And then it would be at risk, and I was there, but now I'm not. And then there was one for there were a couple for juvenile HD, so I went to one of those, and I was like, maybe I could learn something for Bree. So I go in there, and it was super sweet. They had some nutritionists in there talking about diet, like I don't like to say the word dieting, so it's not dieting, but eating with HD. And they were talking about making sure that you mash things down if they're struggling to swallow, and things that we had been doing for Bree for a while now. But what cracked me up was, because they were nutritionists, do you think that they'd be like, oh, you need to make sure they eat a certain amount of calories and, veggies, meat, like what you typically hear. But with HD, it was, you need to add as many calories as possible. So if you want to put ice cream in that fruit smoothie, you put the whole gallon. If you want to give them chocolate in their oatmeal, give them the whole thing of chocolate. And everyone's taking notes like, okay, I'm going to give them to make sure they got 6,000 or 10,000 calories a day.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there going, what is this is kind of incredible that this is something that's real.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was super funny. When your dad got diagnosed, do you know what, I don't think that this has a direct correlation, but I'm always just curious. Do you know what your dad's CAG is?
I don't. My mom has told me. I do not.
No, it's okay. I always get my dad and my grandpa confused, but I'm pretty sure my grandpa's 42 and my dad's 44. Oh no. I'm gonna stress her out. It's okay.
You are. But I feel like his was in the 40s. 40, that sounds right. 40 something.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
curious. Because mine's pretty high. Mine's 49. So I don't even know when JHD technically starts, but I know some kids with JHD who are in the 50s who have lower end symptoms. So I know I'm pretty close. But I try not to read into it too much because yes, there's definitely, sometimes there can be a correlation, but I've also seen circumstances where people who have my CAG or very similar ones have reached out when I start to get nervous about it.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I have a 49 and I am retired with my wife and we still go snowboarding and hiking. And I was like, wow, that's pretty great. And then someone else said my mom has a 49 and she's still super active, still does all these things. So I try not to get too involved, but I always like to know because sometimes I'm just curious how far apart things are. What would you say has been the hardest thing with HD, and then maybe one of the better things about HD in your life?
Let's see. We'll do hardest first.
Get it out of the way.
get the tears out of the way. I guess just seeing other people with their dads,
yeah. Sorry. I want to give you a hug through the screen so badly right now. This is driving me nuts.
I know. Just seeing other people build relationships with their dads and, boyfriends asking a dad for his daughter's hand in marriage and dads walking down the aisle, just stuff like that, which I know there's so many people that don't have that either. So I know it's a normal thing to grieve for people who don't have relationships with their dads, but that's just the hardest thing because I saw him before HD and I knew him before HD. Yeah. And now it's just taken over and he's just not the same,
yeah,
still so strong, but just not emotionally and physically there. And I know he would do anything to be, but that's the hardest thing. It's just the absence of the role that he in a perfect world would play in my life.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the hardest thing, but the best thing that's come from it is seeing that sweet childlike side of him.
Mhm.
Like, my aunt lives in California, and she found a motorized cat. My dad loves cats like I do. Like, we are the crazy cat people.
Oh.
And so she ordered it off of Amazon and had it sent to him at the nursing home sometime, I think right before the pandemic started, because he was able to bring it home to us and show us. And he named her Loren. I know. And he has just, he loves Loren. One of my friends, her mom worked there, and she would tell her, she'd be like, all right, he's tucking Loren in for the night. Like, he would tuck her in, and because she would roll over and she would meow and do all the movements. So just seeing the sweet childlike version of him.
Yeah.
And like, I have a video on my Facebook from a few years ago of him just singing worship music, and it's that childlike, just like seeking God, because that's what he is doing. He loves to pray, and before the pandemic, go to church, and several church groups in the community would always go up there and sing, and he would just love it, just like you would see a little kid at church, just so excited to praise and worship and sing. And that's the biggest blessing I have gotten from all of this.
That's so sweet. I've seen so many pictures and videos of your dad, so I can just, like, in my head, as you were describing it, I was seeing him do those things.
Yes.
And I think it's really sweet because if you both have a love for cats, which, I mean, animals, I will say this till the day I die, we don't deserve animals. We don't. They are so sweet. They are so intuitive. They know when you're upset. They know when you're grieving. I mean, we got our first dog, Groot, who's about to be a year old, right after I lost my sister.
Cute.
Oh, thank you. No, he was literally a grieving dog. Like, right after Brie had passed, I was like, I want a dog. And my other sister, my stepsister, Kylie, she was the same thing, because her and her fiance live in a house like Trey and I do. So we both were at the point where we were like, we can go get dogs. So we each went out and got a dog. They're both about to turn 1. And then somehow we managed to, we got another dog. But yeah, animals just know. They know when you're sad. They know when you're grieving. And they are such a blessing. So I can just envision your dad taking care of it, feeling, I think it gives him a sense of, I know it might sound almost, I don't know the right word for this. It might sound like, really, but I think it gives him a sense of purpose to have a cat, even if it's not an actual cat, to him. And I think I think in his head, it sounds almost like he's seeing the cat as you, like you're his baby girl. And he's like, I'm still taking care of Loren, even though I'm here. I can still
I'm tucking her in.
I can still be her dad. Like, that just gives me goosebumps, because I'm like, I think that that's how he is still, like, reenacting having you as a child and taking care of you. And especially if now the roles are reversed and you have become a caregiver, that's always really hard to switch those roles, even if it's for the best of reasons. You just never anticipate to have to take care of your parent, at least this early in their life.
Yeah.
And so for him to have that and feel like he is still a caregiver in some way, I think that that's so sweet. And the worshiping also makes me super happy, because I know everyone is not faith-based, not spiritual. And to be honest, it was something I really battled with my whole life, because I didn't grow up going to church. I always believed that there was a higher power, but I just kind of was in that camp of like, why would all these things happen to me if there was someone so much greater and so much better? And I think that since getting my diagnosis and going through these trials, I've definitely grown closer to God, even though my life has been crumbling, but that's also the reason I did get closer to
Yeah.
God. So it makes me happy that your dad, after everything he's gone through, after all the HD is thrown at him, he's still like, I love to praise, I love to sing,
Yeah.
I love to give my grace to Jesus. And that I hope he can go back to church sometime soon.
I know it. He would just love that, or at least have people be able to go back in and sing and do the services that they did there.
Oh, so they would bring people into the nursing. Oh, that's even
Yeah.
better, because then he could
I
just
know.
stay.
I know.
Do they at least get to listen to music, or does he get to watch any TV?
Oh yes.
Okay.
The sweetest thing. He'll watch TV and get fixated on something, which is so normal. And he had called mom probably last May, maybe. He called her and he said, I want to go to Africa. And she's like, what? He's like, they need me in Africa to help the kids and to do all this stuff. And I guess he had seen a commercial maybe about being that someone that, I don't know.
Okay, that's super sweet.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
He picks up on things, and just from watching TV, which he loves to watch golf and just football, of course. So
Yep.
he does have a TV and he gets to watch it. So we're glad.
That's so good. He should find a worship channel that he can sing to.
I know. His thing most recently is pictures of us. Mom is a hospice nurse, so she's able to go in the nursing home occasionally.
Yeah.
I think she's maybe been in 4 times since the pandemic started, seeing patients, and she'll drop in and see them. And on the nurse's desk was a picture of us, the whole family, all 4 of us, and it was just crumbled up and left on the nurse's desk. And mom was like, what's this doing here? And they're like, oh, he flashes it around. He shows everyone. He's like, look, this is my family. This is my family. And so the pictures really help him feel like we're there with him, I guess.
Oh my gosh.
So
it's literally like, I know
he's the sweetest.
Oh my gosh, he is. And I knew that just from your posts, but now that I'm sitting here and actually hearing these stories from you, it just brings it to life for me. But yeah, he's a proud dad and he wants everyone to know. I think I'm just happy that he still is able to remember those things that are important to him, because a lot of times, not just HD, but when people put their parents into a nursing home, I've had people in my life where they had family that was in a nursing home, and it got to the point where I think it was just dementia or Alzheimer's, but you'd go in and they wouldn't even know who they were anymore. And to me, like, hearing those stories just devastate me, because I couldn't imagine going in and having someone that is a huge part of my life not be able to remember. So the fact that he is so proud and up and flaunting he should be like, this is my family. I built this, I created this, and they take care of me and they support me. And I think it just goes to show that even though HD is devastating and it's taken a toll on your family, your dad truly still sees the best in life, literally in everything he does. And he's like, after everything, if I just have my family and I can show everyone that they take care of me and that we love each other, then that's all I need. Like, that's what I get by hearing this from you. And that just makes my heart so happy.
I know it. Me too.
So sweet. Well, before I do any closing remarks, I always have to ask if you could give anyone listening to this podcast a piece of advice. I probably should tell people this in advance so they can think it through. But what piece of advice would you give to someone listening?
Just to take life day by day. Like, because you can't you don't want to look too far into the future, be like, oh my gosh, like panicking. What will my life look like in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? Just day by day. And also, which we have all probably learned throughout the past year, is enjoy every little moment. And I feel like I've truly been enjoying more of every little moment, especially that day I got to spend with him. Just really living in the moment and enjoying the things that we used to take for granted. Couldn't find my words.
When you're with your dad, do you kind of just feel like time in the world around you disappears?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And he didn't talk that much because he has declined in the past year, and we didn't realize it. And I hadn't realized it, but just seeing that and knowing that he has declined, enjoyed it. I enjoyed my time more, and just like truly just sat there and just like watched him and just was there with him.
Those are the things that you're going to cherish far beyond this life into the next life. And whenever time comes where you guys are separated for a period until you meet again, it sounds cliche, but now that I've gone through losing one person, I can vouch for the fact that when you are sitting with everyone else beside you, you really don't care about anything else. Like all of a sudden, not even just material things, but like you don't care about that stupid email from work that's stressing you out. Or like you said, in 5 or 10 years from now, am I going to be married? Am I going to have kids? Am I going to be symptomatic? Am I going to be tested? But like, you don't think about anything except for the people that you're with and that you love, and reflecting on those moments that you've had. And I think if we could take those and just apply them to life, it's so much easier. And so, I mean, life's hard, but just the ride would be more enjoyable, and trying to figure out those ebbs and flows. So
I think what you have with your dad is so special. I could just feel him radiating through you.
So happy that you came on here and you shared.
Oh, I am too.
You're not I always have to like break the ice. You're not the only one to cry on here. I've cried on here. Heather cried on here. This is a place to come and cry. It's fine.
Yeah. And I'm a crier. Anyone who knows me knows I am a crier. So.
Oh girl, I am too. I'm just like either super emotional and I let the floodgates out and there's no stopping, or I am so repressed and just building it all up for the next time I cry.
Yeah.
You know? It's one or the other, but I'm definitely very emotional.
I know. I even thought about crying before I came. Like, maybe I won't have any tears left, but I was like, oh, well, I'm just going to let it all out. Just let the emotions happen.
But that's what people love when they listen to this, is it's raw, it's emotional.
Yeah.
And by you being on here and crying and talking about the highs and the lows, they're listening going, okay, it's totally natural for me to be crying about this or emotional about this. And emotions are part of living. And if we bottle them up, we're just going to implode. So I'm so grateful that I found you on.
I know.
Maybe one of the support groups. It's been so long.
I know. I'm so thankful. You are so inspiring, and just I'm thankful the HD community has you, but the circumstances are not ideal, you know.
Right. Yeah, I know. That's always something I have to preface. It's like, I love knowing you, but it's kind of weird that it's under these circumstances.
Yeah, I hate the circumstances it's under, but
right. No, I love you so much, and I am so grateful for you and just proud of you and how you're handling everything at almost going to be 22, because believe it or not, that's still young. That's still being a baby. That's still trying to figure this thing called life out. So you're doing an incredible job.
Thank you so much.